Hey there YouTube, it's Nick with Feeding Fitness. Today I'm going to do part 3 on my series of training with lower back injury or herniated disc. I'm going to start this the same way I started the other parts, and let you know I'm not a doctor. This is just general advice. It's what worked for me. You need to make sure you see a doctor or physical therapist, chiropractor, somebody before you start any kind of lifting program or any program at all if you have a back injury. They're very individualized, but this is what worked for me. And today I'm actually going to talk about the specific training, how you're going to get back into lifting. What are some things that are probably best to avoid at first, and what are some good alternatives. So I'm basically going to go system by system and let you know, how you can train chest, legs, back, whatever, when you have this injury. So we'll start with chest. Chest isn't going to be terribly different. Most of you should still be able to do some kind of a bench, whether it be a flat bench or an incline bench. If that hurts you, then my only real suggestion is dips. Dips should not hurt you. That you should be fine doing dips. But so if you can't do any kind of bench or an incline, do dips. If you can do bench, I would suggest that you do an incline bench because shoulders are going to be tricky. So we'll talk about shoulders next. Overhead presses, especially standing, they're out for now. That's going to put a lot of pressure on the lower back. Military press, with the barbell, no. I would advise that most you do a seated dumbbell press with your back firmly against the bench, so you have no rounding of the back. But anytime you have the weights over your head and you have a low back injury, it's going to hurt. And it can cause things to get worse. So I might recommend for shoulders, like I said, do an incline press for your chest because that's going to help hit the shoulders anyhow. And then, of course, side lateral raises, you can do front raises, you can even do upright rows. All three of those should be safe on your back. With upright rows, I prefer to use a cable, and you don't need to go this high because the last thing you need to do is hurt your elbows when your back's already hurt. So that takes care of chest and shoulders. Biceps, I would avoid anything really heavy. Don't put a ton of weight on an Olympic bar and start curling like this. That's possibly some of the ways you weakened your back, was when you were doing curls, you were involving your low back. Your low back has nothing to do with a bicep curl. I would suggest typical dumbbell bicep curls, but keep good form. Your back should not move. You don't need to be doing this. This is not how you curl. It's how you get hurt. You don't need to be swinging. So, biceps should be fine. Dumbbell curls, that'll be adequate. Triceps, again, not gonna be terribly different. You should be able to do most of your tricep movements without pain. You can do kickbacks, you can do rope pulls, whatever you need to do. Also, triceps are, of course, getting hit on your presses, and they're not really a big deal with your back injury. It's not going to mess you up too much. Now, how do you actually train your back? This is one of the things that is going to be kind of a different thing for you. Deadlifts, and now deadlift isn't even really just a back lift. Deadlift is more like a total body lift, but they're out for now. You need to give yourself some time, say minimum 6 months if you really messed up your back before you get back into deadlifting, and when you do, go back in slowly. So we're going to put those aside for now. Great way to train your back without having much impact on the low back is to do pull-ups, chin-ups. Those are fine. Those should actually make you feel good in your lower back area. It can cause some extension. So I would definitely put those at the top of my list. If you're going to start doing rows, I would use a cable row machine first, or some kind of chest-supported. Chest-supported rows, honestly, are going to be your best bet. If you can stick your chest up against something and do your rows like that, that is going to be the best for your back. Some gyms have machines for this. If you don't have a machine, what you can do is take an adjustable bench and set it like you were going to do an incline, but instead of laying your back on it, you just lay your chest on it, and you do them, like that. It's a good way to do your rows. Eventually you can get into your standard, dumbbell row where you're on the bench, and you're doing the pull. That's okay. You have to be careful not to round your back when you do that. And then the last thing I would add in would be your bent over rows, because bent over rows are going to cause some issues with your lower back. So those would be, I wouldn't put those in until you're really feeling good, really feeling a lot better. So that takes care of back. Now let's move on to lower body. how are we going to lift the legs? Some of you will be able to squat, some of you will not. I was able to squat. So what I did originally, and this is probably going to be the least amount of impact on your lower back, is to do a rear foot elevated split squat. And what that is you'll take 2 dumbbells in your hand and you'll position your foot on a bench. And you simply squat the weight down and up. It's hard to do without a bench there. But you can Google that, rear foot elevated split squat. Those are a great exercise. There's actually a fair bit of argument to do those even if you don't have a bad back, because they're such a good exercise. One thing I will tell you on those, they're single leg movement. Don't try and do your left leg and then move immediately into your right leg. If you're going to do 3 sets of 8, you need to do a set of 8 on one leg, rest, set of 8 on the next leg, rest. You have to have a rest in between your legs, or you're going to gas out, and whatever leg you do second isn't going to get hit as efficiently as whatever leg you did first. So just a tip there. Moving on from the split squats, I would say lunges are decent. Most people can tolerate lunges without any pain. Moving on from lunges, I would do, if you're going to start getting into like the barbell squatting again, I would start with front squats. A lot of times front squats can be less intensive on the back than your traditional back squats. Luckily for me, I was able to get back into back squatting pretty quickly. That oftentimes will not be the case. Now I know a lot of you are thinking, why not just do leg press? Leg press seems to be the perfect solution for this. I disagree. I tend to think leg press can sometimes put you in a more compressive position as far as your low back is concerned. For me, I can pretty much do everything now without back pain. Leg press is one of the very few things that I still do not tolerate. Leg press is right out for me, probably forever. But as long as I can squat, I don't really care, because I don't really need to leg press if I can squat. So for me, leg press was right out. If you can tolerate a leg press, that's fine, go ahead and do it. But personally, leg press was the worst thing for me. So if you want to do something hamstring specific, you don't have a lot of choices. Leg curls are going to be your best friend. Stiff leg deadlift, right out. That is, there's no way with a back injury that is going to be good for you to do until you've really built yourself back. You can do back extensions with no weight. I would do body weight only, and only at the point to where you tolerate those. Restrict your range of motion so that you're not causing a lot of flexion. And after you build that up, and that'll actually be good for you to help build the lower back, and that has some hamstring activation. You can build that into glute ham raise, but again, this is going to take some time. You're not going to go in your first day and do glute ham raises with your lower back injury. So leg curls seem to be the most effective for me. If you are going to do a stiff-legged deadlift, they have to be single leg, because you can do that without the rounding in the back. I prefer to use a kettlebell for this, and you hold the kettlebell and you do them single leg, so that way your back is flat the whole time. When you're trying to do 2 at once, unless you have really good flexibility, you're probably going to round your back, and that's going to hurt. So that kind of takes care of lower body. Calves shouldn't be an issue. Train calves how you'd always train calves. Abs and basically core. This is going to be tricky because you probably can't do anything that involves flexion. Most people will recommend you train your abs by doing things like weighted crunches or weighted ab machines. This will not work for you, because that's exactly what you don't want to do, is put your back in a rounded, flexed position and apply tension to it. That's the worst thing you can do. So you're not going to be able to train your abs that way. Planking is going to be a good option for you. Weighted planking after you can tolerate planks. And then if you go back to the part 2 video where I talked about the McGill moves, where you do the curl ups and the side planks and that, those are going to be a good way for you to train abs. You should just continue to do those rehab type exercises as your ab work, because you're not going to tolerate the flexion. It's going to be bad for you. Some of you can get away with like hanging leg raises. That even hurts me. I can't even do those. So that's more to how you feel, but really remember, anytime you're in flexion, it's probably bad if you have a low back injury or herniated disc. So that kind of wraps up how I would do training. If you want like a simple 3-day-a-week total body workout, what I was probably doing when this is the first workout I started doing after I hurt my back and got back into the gym. I probably came in and did dips for chest, and then I did chin-ups for back, and that's also got biceps. I did front raises and side raises for shoulders because I wasn't able to do overhead press at the time. Curls for biceps, and then whatever tricep move you wanted to do. And then I did the split squats and the single leg deadlifts. So right there's a total body workout for you. I would do that 3 days a week, and I would do your McGill stuff on the 3 alternating days, so that covers your core and your abs. So that's kind of how I would approach it, and then add in exercises one at a time. This is very important. If you want to see if you're tolerant to an exercise that you haven't done for a while, you have to do it one at a time. I made the mistake of feeling a little bit better, so I reverted back to doing all of my old lifts, and then my back hurt really bad again. I didn't know, was it overhead press? Was it going back to back squats? Was it doing bench press? Bent over rows. I added them all in at once, hurt myself again, and didn't know what it was. I also started running that week. It could have been any of those things or a combination of those things. So you really need to add things back one at a time, add a lift, wait a couple weeks, that all feels good, then add another. Don't get in a hurry, don't get in a rush. You are more prone to re-injury after you've hurt your back the first time than you were if you've never hurt your back. So you have to keep that in mind. And I know you want to get back to doing optimal lifts to make optimal gains, but remember, if you're hurt, you're not making any gains. So it's better to make suboptimal gains and keep your back safe after you've had an injury than to rush into being able to do things like deadlifting again just to be optimal, because when you snap your shit again and you're down for a month or two, nothing's optimal. So that's really it. If you guys have any more specific questions, let me know in the comments below, but I think that wraps up mostly what you need to know for training with a lower back injury. So again, like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time.